technique or maybe a lesser known kind of trick or technique that you've used in FL Studio that had a major impact on the way you make music?
Well, it wasn't in the early days of FL Studio. FL Studio is really old, but you guys go way back. But I mean, in the early 2000s, I would email Scott about something that I wanted to see. Scott's like one of the original owners. And Scott would like reach out to me and say, hey, is there anything new you want to see? And I took advantage of that and would say like weird things. Like one of those, I remember at that point in my career, I was playing live drums and then I would program things over those drums. And so I would end up with this like piano roll and then a wave file below it. And it was, I would have to like go by the millisecond to like try and make everything, because my drumming isn't perfect. So I would have to like make things sync up properly because I'm obsessive and that's the way I do it. And I was like, can I just drag and drop a wave file into the piano roll and then see the peaks and valleys of the wave? And like a month later, a version came out and it was there. And I was like, okay, well, that's why I use this DAW, because like no other DAW had that at the time. The piano roll, I think, is like, the FL Studio's piano roll is like the best in the business. There's nothing like it. If you are into technically and obsessively adding little notes and modulation, I can't find anything else that compares. Harmor, obviously, is bonkers. I hope to see more Harmor updates in the future. Like it's incredible. Like you could just play with that synth on its own for hours and never get bored.
Sure. Sound goodizer. Like 10 of them on the master, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so gonna jump into a few questions about the infamous topic of AI. I know you have a lot of opinions and thoughts on that as well.
Yes.
And then I'll open it up to some questions from the audience. But with AI tools, like generative music models and such, what do you think is the right balance between using AI for inspiration versus, preserving that human creativity?
I think that like people who are militantly anti-AI, like I think the type of person who like goes around Instagram asking people if something is AI or like asking if their music is AI. Did you use an AI drum in there? I thought I heard that. Like I think that might actually be worse for artists than AI. I think that's like it's really reductive. There's no point doing it. At the same time, like I don't view AI as a threat. I view and I'm sorry to like it sound a little anti-establishment by saying this, but like I mean AI is no different than Spotify in terms of like it's just taking from musicians, it's siphoning as a middleman, and then it's trying to create a new economy around that, and that's what's been happening since day one. And it kind of goes back to that IP thing where it's like we've invented this way to just like exploit labor with artists when it's just not, in my opinion, compatible the way it is. And so I view AI as just like the new iteration of that, and the thing that pissed me off about AI was typing in my own name, like typing in like make a song like the Flashbulb, and then it created like a ridiculous song that was like in my style, but it sounded bad. And for some reason that was like my trigger. Like I was just like, oh, okay, that made me. So I think this time around it was like, okay, well now I'm in a position where I could be a little bit more proactive about this thing. So the first thing was like voice. We worry about voices being stolen, somebody being impersonated, taking somebody's voice and having them sing in a song. And so we created, I was one of the co-founders of VoiceSwap, which we have some members right here, the CEO is over there. But yeah, so VoiceSwap is a project that essentially uses an AI model, but instead of using, instead of just scraping Spotify or something like that and like isolating the vocals and training a model like that, a musician comes to you and says, hey, I want to make a voice model. And then they supply you with, 20 to 100 to thousands hours of data. And they have a really good voice model that they can stand behind. And then you pay them royalties, like every single time you use it. And you have to get their permission to use it. And so it might not be as like exploitable, but it is a better system than any other voice transformation. And that's because you need to work with the artist to have that done. And then that's when as well as Poisonify, which is, it's not called Poisonify anymore, but I figured out a way to use adversarial noise to protect, to just put over music, and then when AI hears it, it gets confused, so it can't learn from your music. I don't think that's going to transform the industry, but like the goal there is nobody in Senate or really any legislators are doing anything about protecting artists from having their intellectual properties, scraped and resold as something else. So we'll just use technology to do that, and that's what that does. And so, I mean, it's working really well. And it's our problem right now is like getting enough server stuff to actually encode the music. It's not the efficacy, or it's not like the use. So, I mean, that's a successful thing so far.
Thanks. Yeah. So not to put words in your mouth, but obviously, given your relationship with voice swap and such, it sounds like you think there is a place potentially for this kind of generative AI and things like that. However, it's more the ethics of how it's trained and such that you find the issue. You don't have as much of an issue with the concept of AI. But.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the concept of it. I don't have an issue with using music to train a model or fine-tune a model to make new music. I have an issue with doing it without talking to the person who created the music, and I think that reduces the quality of the actual output of the thing. I think that if Suno worked with musicians, and if musicians said, yeah, okay, I have an idea for a model that we could train, and if they understood a little bit more about how it worked, you would have a really cool tool in Suno. Like, it would actually be like, imagine if, I don't know, Trent Reznor was like, yeah, I want to make a model of like these crazy monosynths that I have, and then you could type in something and it'll create a loop, or it'll create something that you could use in your own music. That's infinitely cooler than typing in song like Nine Inch Nails. And it requires work from Nine Inch Nails to create that, and they have to be able to give something special to it. And in terms of voice swap, we found that like musicians want to do that. There are a lot of musicians who like want to participate in this technology, but they just don't want to be exploited. So like, yeah, offer them that, and you'll end up with something better. So really, the problem that I see with AI so much, I mean, just with CES the other week, I was like laughing so much because I saw this like video stream of like one of those Unitree robots, and it was they had watermelons, different types of melons, and it was like spinning kick these watermelons, and wow, that's really impressive physics and stuff. And then humans cleaned it up, and it was just like, this is so like I want a robot that cleans up the watermelon that I'm jump kicking. That seems like way more fun. Yeah, so I think it's a lot of AI. It's obviously a lot of it is just a lot of people are just garnishing as much investment as possible and not really thinking of actual solutions. And I think there is that in audio. And I guess to like cap that off with an actual example that I could think of, you have sample libraries that are violin sample libraries. What if you trained AI models on violin performances, and then you put it into a piano roll, and then it articulates it like it does those performances? That would sound way cooler than any sample library, and probably more authentic and more fun to play with. But there's just not a big enough total addressable market for venture capitalists to like throw money into something like that, at least until the bubble pops, and then we have to worry about, it's not as, we're not solving as many things that don't have problems.
Makes sense. Very insightful. I appreciate it. So if you could design, I mean, so every producer I've ever met is constantly tinkering with their studio setup. I feel like nobody's ever 100% happy with it. I'm included in that for sure. If you could design, just even if it's impossible, but if you could design in your head a theoretical studio music production environment, combining hardware, software, and AI, if you wanted to include that, what would it look like and why?
I mean, that's a really good question. I might leave the computer if I were doing that. Like, I might actually leave the computer behind. Yeah, because I see. Yeah, I guess I would just want it to be drastically different than what I have now. I think I would have a lot of tape loops, like going around the room physically, things like that. Yeah, and a lot of real instruments, like a lot of like acoustic instruments and stuff like that. I guess it would be somewhere between that and like a physics lab, because I would like to invent new instruments, and I would like to, play with electromagnets and strings and things like that. That would probably be, I would be happy with that for at least like a year.
Till the next thing. Yeah, sounds cool. Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions in 1 second. I just had one kind of question I'd like to ask first. What innovations in music production tools are you personally most excited about? We've talked a lot about the negatives and stuff about AI. What are you most excited about at the moment? that get you inspired?
I mean, it sounds a little. I'm not paid to be here, by the way, but I think things like FL Cloud, like you've announced your browser version. I hope it. I didn't just
Studio
leak
Web.
it. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's in public beta. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like having a DAW in a web browser, it's really powerful for reasons that might not seem obvious. Like, obviously, it's a little more convenient, but it's being able to run it on a tablet, being able to run it, in areas that might even be able to hook up to different hardware within other hardware, stuff like that. I think that's really important, and it also brings down the barrier of entry for people who don't want to buy an audio interface and like have to install software. And yeah, so I mean, I think things like that are really exciting. As far as like technical things with audio, I'm a bit spoiled. I'm just kind of like I'm really into like infrasound and ultrasound and finding pressure waves that we can't hear that don't fit into the sound spectrum. It'd be cool to have a synth like that. One thing I would love to see, if anybody develops modules or synths here, is an SDR, like a synthesizer that has a software-defined radio in it that can pull radio signals and then transform them and demodulate them in different ways using synthesis. I think that would be really fun because there's a whole world of RF out there that we don't even know about.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So I hope that some of you have some questions. So we do have a mic we're going to pass around. So if you want to raise your hands and ask Benn Jordan whatever is on your mind. Old AMA. Wow. There. Thank you. Somebody's got to be the first one.
Hey.
Hold on. I think the mic's
they
off.
turn you on.
Hello.
Hey.
There we go.
How are you?
Good to
How's
see
your
you.
drive in?
It's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had a question on the AI front. 'Cause you and I have spoken a lot about this
Yeah.
before, and Lunacy is working on their own models right now.
Yeah.
The thing we're struggling with, and I think a lot of people are struggling with, is the royalty model with training is so cool, but no one has cracked how to open the black box of a model and figure out how to weight the distribution of royalties.
Right.
So the one solution, right, is that you just train models on individuals, or like let's say you have a company and you just train it on their samples, but you're missing the benefit of a model with everything, because
Yeah.
it's impossible to have a model with everything and also do the royalty system. And so no one has cracked that. I don't know what your thoughts are on building a system that's like per company. Like, how do you address this problem with royalties where the sample to training data set is specific to each model and can't be shared across multiple models?
Yeah, I mean, when we started Voice Swap, my like grand idea was that artists, and I would have to double check to see where the numbers are right now, but my grand idea was that like anybody involved with it would get dividends from the company. So if the company was doing super successful, the people owning the company and funding it weren't they would be getting $1 billion, and then musicians would be getting the same royalty rate. And I kind of like the problem that you posed here, because it tickles the part of me that complains about intellectual property being utterly terrible in the long run. Like, it tickles that, and it shows how like abstract and complicated it could be, and how it can create new problems that are hard to solve. But it also, in a weird way, I guess it creates the desire to make a more equitable system, to where like, yeah, maybe if Taylor Swift's model is being used a bunch, then maybe like the person who's just starting music, who actually could use the royalties a bit more to get more involved in the music, would get so. I kind of don't want the royalties to be as straightforward. Like, if you're fine tuning a model, if you're making like Benn Jordan's voice or Benn Jordan's guitar playing, and you're fine tuning that, that's easy enough. You can just make a separate web page or a separate payment or whatever. But if it's being tossed into a larger model, I don't necessarily have a problem with the money spread being even among all musicians. I think that, like, if when we think about the royalty mechanisms, if we think of like Spotify or Tidal, it's like if those businesses can remain profitable, which is still, a question mark, we don't know if they can. If they can remain profitable, then wouldn't it be better if if Universal Music Group was maybe making less and independent artists were maybe making more? And I'm not a fan of this if it's like money in, money out, but I am a fan of this when it's something as abstract and philosophical as intellectual property, of saying this idea is worth this much and now it's not. Weirdly, I don't have a solution for your problem other than being I kind of like that the problem exists. Let's explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. I was just wondering if there were any open source projects that you wanted to highlight. So you talked a little bit about that. Yeah, I mean, the most obvious, the first thing that I tell every musician to check out is Surge. I mean, it's such an incredible synthesizer that went open source. It has so many bizarre features buried within it. I almost want to bring out GitHub on my phone and just start rattling them off. Okay, so you're gonna have to look this up because I forget the name, but Composer's Desktop Project, CDP, it's this command line tool that Aphex Twin used constantly for Bucephalus Bouncing Ball, if you're familiar with that track, Come to Daddy. This software that was used for that. Someone recently made, I wish I had some friends who talk about this all the time. I wish they would show up right now and remind me of the name. Somebody made a node-based interface, like Reactor or something, where it visualizes the modules, and then you can send audio instead of having to type all the code. And so it could work much faster, and it's destructive editing. So you can say I want this audio to time stretch 64 times using harmonic grains, and so you can get really wild really fast. So if you just search Composer's Desktop Project GUI, you'll find this. It runs in browser, and it just works with the command line interface, and I believe it runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, everything. Thanks. Got some over here.
How are you doing today?
Pardon?
How are you doing today?
Good. I'm tired.
Saw online that you had an eye interview before you came in.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's not looking as bad as I was worried. I didn't have to wear sunglasses. I injured my eye in the desert. Just random high wind rock or something went into my eye, and
That happens.
now I apparently have to have surgery. So.
So my question today is that, a lot of people, I've heard someone compare, AI being to the debut of Melodyne and Auto-Tune in the way that, a lot of people were worried that it was going to basically devalue the idea of being a vocalist altogether, but then later we found that it became a really powerful tool and that it was helpful, and there were still some checks and balances with that, obviously. I wanted to ask you, do you feel in the future that we're going to start seeing AI more like that, maybe just another tool, or do you actually see it becoming a very disruptive, even destructive power in the music industry over the next decade?
So, when we think about the baseline that we're talking about, we're talking about an industry that pays certain artists a certain wage. Okay, so on my YouTube channel, I pay, so all my life, I've worked in music licensing in some way. I've released albums, I've licensed stuff, sometimes for tens of thousands of dollars for one license for a movie trailer that will be shown for 1 year on television, right? So as of right now on my YouTube channel, I pay something like $20 a month for unlimited use of music for maybe even tens of thousands of artists, orchestral, jazz, rap, you name it, it's there. It's all brilliant. Some of it I like a lot more than my music. Some of it I like more than the music that I find on streaming platforms. And so, same thing with stock photos. If you sign up for a subscription stock photo site, you'll get more specific, you'll get better stuff than any AI thing can generate. And you're doing it, you're paying a certain monthly fee, and you get unlimited use to it. And so, that as a baseline is a terrible industry, for the artists. If music is devalued so much that I could pay $20 a month and use something in a Brad Pitt film legally, then what is it that we're so worried about being destroyed? And so I don't really worry about it that much because it's oh look, another person's in line to be a middleman and repurpose this into something else to where they can make money. I mean, so it's hard for me to be like worried about it because I'm pissed off from all the previous ways that it's been that we've exploited artists. And yeah, I mean, I guess your question was if I see it being integrated or disruptive. I don't think it's going to ultimately be disruptive. And the reason I don't think it's going to be ultimately disruptive is because if I go to Suno right now, and if I want to hear something very specific, and if I type that in, it's not going to give it to me. It's going to slide into one of the like the way these AI models work is that they quantify into things that they're good at. And so if you say, give me a new sound that I never heard before, or give me a song with a make up a word that maybe it wouldn't even know, it'll just pick something that it can do. And so it really prioritizes quality over specificity. And so so I'm not really worried about it disrupting anything. And maybe even philosophically, I wouldn't be worried about it because it's only trained on pre-existing things. You're not really going to get new ideas unless you do it a drastically different way. And what we have is something that's still using the same UNet model that we were using in 2016. Nobody's actually put in the time to build a brand new one from the ground up that's more creative.
Clearly a lot of sensationalism around that. So thank you for
Sure. Well, I mean, if you haven't noticed, if you listen to Sam Altman's, the CEO of OpenAI, if you listen to his rhetoric over the years, it's always like something just happened. We just broke new ground, and it's really scary. It might be he makes it sound like his product is going to destroy humanity, but really he just wants people to say, "Ooh, I better invest in this first." And so I think the fear mongering works really well. And saying that AI music is going to destroy the music industry, all that the reason for doing that is to get people to invest in AI music so they can get ahead of it, when in reality, we're just destroying the planet.
real. Thank you for that.
Hello, Ben. It's nice to meet you.
How's it going?
I've been watching your content for a while now, so this is an honor.
Thank you.
You touched on there's two different kinds of musicians that you talked about. One that makes music just to make music and for themselves, and another musician who is maybe seeking some sort of recognition from their work or something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of artists, you typically are the second because they're, trying to progress and make something of themselves, make money and all that stuff. We being in a band and trying to work our way up, content creation and all that is like the name of the game right now. And it's like, if you don't make content, you're probably going to be falling far behind everyone else, maybe staying in the same spot forever. So my question is, how can you ride this fine line without losing yourself, maybe feeling like maybe I'm not made to be a content creator, but I need it to do this thing? What's your advice for someone trying to navigate that landscape?
I mean, forcing musicians to be content creators to get attention, it works, but I don't feel good about it because it really is like you're just telling them to dance. You're just like, dance, go on, do something entertaining, fun. Dance, literally dance. Make a TikTok of you dancing your own song. I have a big problem with that because if I make a song, if I'm writing music, or even if I'm doing scientific research, one of my biggest problems in my life right now is that I now think, okay, well, how am I going to frame this for a YouTube video where people could learn from it? And that does degrade from the experience of doing it. And that's definitely something in music. I don't think I stream weekly, and I've been streaming weekly for 5 years, and I don't think there's one time when I made something that I liked when an audience was watching because I was doing it for them, not for me. It absolutely changes the process of writing. And also just if somebody is interested in becoming known or liked as a musician, or if they want to play a lot of shows and it's not only about the music writing, maybe a way that I could have put that a little bit better is that they're enthusiastic about participating in a culture, which I think is totally okay. So I guess I hate to say this, but I think my advice is if you feel like you have to go out of your way and make content that you're not necessarily enthusiastic about making in hopes that more people pay attention to your music, then maybe you should make music and not be in the music business. Because making music's a beautiful thing, and the music business is forcing you to do a bunch of shit that you don't want to do. So Yeah, I wish I lived in a world where it was like hard to leave the music business because like it paid so well or offered so many benefits. But like, unfortunately, I guess one. So, uh, one of my closest friends who passed away, Charlie Cooper from Telephone Tel Aviv. If anybody's familiar with it, Telephone Tel Aviv, it's brilliant music. He worked at a restaurant. He worked at a sushi restaurant, and he didn't need to. His career was at an all-time height, and he worked there because they let him take months off to go on tour. And I was just like, why are you working at the sushi restaurant? And he was like, because it's not making money off of music. Like, I like to not have to worry about who's listening to my music, how much I'm being paid for shows. I love being a musician, so I'll serve food, and then I'll go home and I'll make music, and I love it. And he was, he was under 30 at the time. Like, this was a profound thing for a 20-something-year-old to say. And it stuck with me forever. And I started like licensing music to ads and stuff like that because I was like, okay, I have ad music time, and I have writing music that I don't want to write at that time, and then I'll go write whatever I want, and I don't give a shit if anybody likes it or doesn't like it. And then more people started listening to my music because I guess it just seemed like I was more creative or genuine in it. And yeah, so I don't know if that's necessarily an algorithm for success, but like maybe if we think of success as you being happy with what you're doing, then it's an algorithm for success, but I don't know if it's going to make money.
Good question. Anybody else? Oh, we got one in the back. We gotta deal with this wire a little bit.
So everybody's talking about AI and sometimes making content and stuff. Besides that, what do you see in the future, from your unique perspective, that could be ways or innovations that would just making music more fun? Besides AI, everybody's talking about that, but because everybody's talking about that, we forget about other conversations. So I don't know, what's your take on stuff that you're excited that would make this more fun?
I would really like for music and dare I say music and capitalism to become unmarried. I would really like to see that, and I would really like music to It sounds extreme, but software has done this in a big way. GitHub is full of open source software, right? And not only GitHub. And the idea of that is you're releasing an idea into the world, and then somebody can take that idea and make something better with it, or make a GUI for it that's easy to use for somebody who doesn't understand computers that well, or add an interface to it that could be used by somebody who can't see that well. Or add a bunch of functionality, or make it for something else. And the idea of doing that with music is really exciting to me. And I have music on my GitHub that has session files and stuff like that, because I really love the idea of making something and then just pushing it out there and not claiming ownership over it, not saying you have to pay me if you want to use it, being no, use it, and if it inspires you, or if taking a piece of this and making a new idea, if that makes something even cooler and better, and if somebody takes that, makes something cooler and better, then you're just part of a massive community, and you're intrinsically enjoying the process of making and releasing music. You're not worrying about how many people are downloading it or liking it or whatever. And it is kind of the polar opposite of the forcing somebody to make social media content to get people to, it's the opposite of that hellscape. But I love the idea of treating music like open source software, like something where you just let anybody do whatever they want with it, and maybe keep attribution involved, just have a list of names in the repo so you can see who, because that's kind of what, when we think about the whole AI controversy that we have, what gives music value is not necessarily the music, it's the person behind it. If you heard my music on Spotify or something, and you had never heard it before, and you really liked it, you'd probably search my name somewhere, and you'd want to know, what's his inspiration? Does he have a wife? Where does he live? Things like that. We do that because we're human beings, and we and AI is kind of the opposite of that. And in fact, there's only one song that I've ever heard that was generated by a major AI model that I really liked, where I was this is great, I really love it. Maybe it was just a happy accident. And it kills me that I can't find anything else from the artist that made it. It kills me. It's this Australian woman folk song thing that's so good. And I can't find the person because she doesn't exist. I don't know anything about her. I can't really get any more inspiration outside of that generated song. Yeah, so I think there's some hope there because we need humans attached to it for it to have that value.
Good question.
Hi. This isn't really a question. I just wanted to give you some appreciation of just like a lot of your recent videos. If you know, you know, but like I see a lot on like vlogs and stuff. I know it's completely deviating from the topic of this right here, but I just wanted to give you your flowers for it. It's really insightful, really educational. I just really appreciate you sharing it. Genuinely.
Sorry, I didn't hear you talk. Were you talking about flock safety?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to give you your flowers on those videos that you made. Like,
Thank you.
they're really good.
Thank
And not
you.
only that, but really educational.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. In a weird way, I think it is kind of like philosophically connected to everything else I'm saying too.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. All right. I think pretty good. I think thank you so much for everybody for coming. Thank you, Benn Jordan, for being here. Appreciate it.
These are good questions.
Yeah, great questions from the audience. I appreciate it.